Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Touched by a Horse. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, and I'm here with your host today, Carolyn Fitzpatrick. Hello, Carolyn.
Hello.
I'm so excited to talk to you. We have some important things to talk about, which is what we do on this show. We talk about important things, right? Helping people.
That's right.
So your business is called The Horse Connection, and you are one of the authors of Touched by a Horse, this third edition that came out. Yes?
Yes, that is correct.
And I'm so curious, this has been a fun project because everybody's coming from sort of a different place, but they all have the same common thread of working with horses. And I'm curious, tell me what you do with horses and maybe who you help, and then we can kind of dive into some more stories.
Okay, well, pretty much anyone that has a problem with communication, I'm your go-to person. I work with couples. I work with people that are in corporate groups or in intact groups like 4-H groups, church groups, that kind of thing. If they all know each other, that I'm considering that a group. It doesn't have to be corporate or big business.
Got it.
And I also work with communication between the horse and their owner.
Got it. So 3 different groups. That's amazing. And the common thread in all of that you said was
communication.
Can you give, I want to know, you have a lot of life experience in communication because for 20 plus years, almost 30 years now, you've been a mediator, yes?
That is correct. I've heard just about everything anybody could possibly tell me.
And as much as our conversation today is not about your mediation business, it's about your horse, the Horse Connection business. You can't ignore the life experience and the wisdom that's come from being in mediation for all those years. I would imagine that it's impacted sort of how you think about communication.
That's correct. And I mean, right. And it has really led me to why I work so much with couples, because behind the scenes, I hear where it started falling apart. And if they could have just reached out to someone earlier, often it can be saved. I'll say it that way. And in other times, it's just, how do we transition into 2 separate households that still have a good relationship between them?
It just seems like such a, it seems awesome. And sometimes maybe too good to be true, or right. Like I think when you start to see the end of a relationship coming, it could be like, we just start planning for the worst, or there's a lot of fear that can happen. But the idea that the relationship may end, or maybe it doesn't end, and it doesn't have to be ugly, is a really amazing thought. Is that the kind of, have you seen that with this type of work with the horses?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the horses tap into what people feel deep down. I mean, they don't understand the words. I'm not like saying they understand what the people say in words, but they do understand the feelings. And when people are truly hurt or disappointed or anxious, the horses pick up on it so well. Wow. And that gives me the opportunity to ask them, what's really coming up for you? And it gives the couples the opportunity to share things they've never even talked about before. I mean, they were scared to talk about it.
Wow. Is it? Yeah, I get that big time. I would imagine then that if it comes up in a session with a horse, is there something grounding or peaceful by having the horse there? Like, does it somehow make it okay to share what they're afraid to share?
I wouldn't say that it does that exactly, but what people find out they do is they're talking to the horse. They forget I'm there. I mean, the horse does provide the environment to invite them because it feels safer talking to the horse. It feels safer being in their presence instead of just sitting with me across the table or on a phone talking about something that's that sensitive. And another big part of the couples coaching is we don't look at just today. There's so much that happened in their upbringing and their culture and their other relationships, and how their parents raised them, that they never talked about or never even thought about. And that's kind of their hot buttons, or why they aren't communicating well anymore.
Right. Wow,
so that's brought to the forefront.
How did you get into this work? I mean, you have a successful mediation business. How did you decide to do this also?
I had enough pain myself
Hmm.
that I wanted to help others. And that's really the bottom line.
Hmm.
I was in an abusive, emotionally and physically abusive relationship for 15 years. And I didn't have a voice. I lost it little by little. I was put on a time clock. If I went to visit my parents, my husband knew exactly how long it should take me to get there.
Wow.
Within 5 minutes of my arrival, supposed time, he's on the phone talking to my parents, and then I'm in trouble if I wasn't there by that time. And I mean, I just stayed nervous all the time, the time. Watching tracks in the driveway and coming in and saying, who came today? And I mean, my mind's blown because I don't remember anybody coming today. And just staying on end all the time. And little by little, you lose your voice. And when you lose your voice, then there's no communication to repair it, really.
Right. And so did you find your own way back to your voice through horses, or how did you find your way back to your voice?
Well, I had my horses all along, and that's where I would go and cry. That's where I would go and hug them and hide in a corner or whatever I had to do to just find some kind of balance to keep going day by day.
Yeah.
But I actually decided to get a divorce when my child was in the 4th grade because I saw that same pattern starting to happen with her. And I thought, how can she have a normal relationship ever if she thinks this is normal?
Wow.
And as far as, you know, how did I get out of it? A lot of counseling, divorce fees,
yeah,
a lot of hard feelings. And that's what I don't want everyone to have to go through.
right.
With all the excitement that all of us seem to have when we fall in love, now multiply that times 10 when you find out it's not working.
Yeah, right.
And it's that much pain. It's just anxiety, fear, it's all there.
Yeah, yes, big time. And this is why this type of work is so powerful. You know, I'm only learning about it because I'm having this opportunity to interview all of you who wrote the Touched by a Horse book. But what I'm noticing in the pattern of the stories is the power of transformation, and even how quickly the transformation can happen in this type of therapy with horses. That's big stuff. Like you're talking about the psychological trauma that comes with abusive relationships, and just the not having a voice. It's powerful to get through that way. So how do your sessions work when people work with you, whether it's couples or people in organizations? How does it work?
Well, typically I'll do a 1.5 day retreat, organizations or groups. And they might do that once a year, every other year. They get a ton out of it because they figure out within the retreat and working with the horses. So it's kind of like a fun day as well.
Yeah,
they figure out how to interact better within that culture. And with the couples, I would say the average is probably 3 sessions. But 3 sessions is almost nothing when you think about it. It took me 1.5 years going to a counselor twice a week to figure out who I was anymore.
Right. And your sessions for couples are what, like an hour or a couple hours?
Normally about 2 hours. I schedule them either morning or afternoon, and I never do but one in the morning and one in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I don't watch a clock. I just go, but when it's time to stop, we stop. When they have enough to process and they've got enough awarenesses that they need to go think about it a while and feel into it, then that's when we stop.
Wow. What kind of work is there? Work in between sessions? Like they get done with a session and then do you like say, okay, go journal? Do you how do you send them away? What do they do?
Often I'll ask them to journal. Often I give them homework. I say homework because I used to teach college, so it's kind of a word I use, homework.
Yeah.
But just things to start interacting or being more aware of when they're together. Often it's things to be aware of, like how to change your language. Let's put it that way. Instead of pushing a hot button, how could you word it in a way that you could receive it if you heard it?
Right.
If you know you're getting angry, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to go to different places? Are you going to talk about it? You're going to set it off till tomorrow? Like, just homework.
I like that. I hear this. So correct me if I'm wrong. I hear kind of like two pieces. Part of it in the session is that there's healing that happens with the horse and with the partner or whoever, like there's healing that happens. And then that's what restores. And then there's the homework, which is what sort of helps them change their patterns moving forward. Is that how that works?
That's accurate. I mean, every session is different.
Yeah.
There's no cookie cutter session. So what they would do would be totally different than another couple, because it depends on where they come into the session and what they want to work on. And often it's so much more about awarenesses than people realize, because when you hear something or you feel something that's been so buried you weren't even aware of it, there's a shift. And it takes a while to get comfortable with that shift, even though you know you want to make that change or you have to make that change. Right. It just takes a while to embrace that.
Wow. Wow. I just think it's so valuable to have, I mean, it's valuable in any context, but there's something about the fact that you've had the years you've had in mediation that I'm just glad that you're in my corner. If I'm coming to your what do you call it, a ranch, your barn, your stable, where do I come if I come see you?
We call it a farm. We're in the South, so most of them are farms, even though they're horse farms.
Right.
We have 186 absolutely gorgeous acres, and everybody says, wow, when I was driving in here, it felt serene. And I'm so thankful for that, because they drive by a pond and then up through the trees and up to the barn. And I'm hoping that they're leaving whatever was stressful, so they come here with that frame of mind, like a big breath, like, wow, go to the park for a while.
Yeah. Ah, that's amazing. How many, when couples come, do you do individual sessions? Do they come together? How does that work?
Usually they come together, but again, it's no one way. I mean, if one party wants to meet with me only, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. What you usually find is they're working on different things anyway, but I'm hopeful that their common thread is that they want to put it back together and have it stronger than it was before.
In all your work, what do you find is like, what are the biggest challenges or hurdles to communication?
Listening. Instead of just thinking you know it all, or thinking you know what the other person really is thinking or saying, not jumping forward to assuming that what they're saying is what you're believing they're saying. That assumption thing kills a lot of things. And not listening. I mean,
wow.
Just being quiet and present is huge.
Wow. Would you say that then a lot of this work is about learning to listen?
It's about learning to quiet down a little bit and decide what you're thankful for and what you really want for yourself, what your soul's asking for. It's a lot about just quieting down. The horses are excellent at getting us to quiet down.
Yeah.
They kind of demand awareness, because they're a lot bigger than we are. And if you're not aware, it could be something not really want.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, my aunt had horses. She had 2 horses. And I remember, I was a little kid at that time. But I just remember just like, it was intimidating in some ways because they were so big. And they would, snort and, make noises with their noses. And I was just like, I don't want to get too close, but they were super patient, magical, but I love that. They command a lot of respect, I think, for sure. Well, tell me about, I want to make sure we have time to talk about how you work with the horse and the rider, because I know that's another niche that you work with. So what's the kind of work that you do with the horse and the rider?
Well, again, my theme is communication, because I feel very strongly every horse is an individual, just like every person is an individual. They might have commonalities, but they're different. And they can't talk to us in our language. So we have to become more aware of what they need and how they learn and what they want their social environment to be like. And Melissa Pierce, that is the Touch by a Horse founder, she and I wrote a book together called Equisology. And it's about determining your horse's personality. So I pretty much go all over the country I just got back from Las Vegas last night, doing clinics with horses and their owners, helping them communicate more effectively. So the dream that they have of being that horse that's going to provide all this joy to them can really be that dream, that they live that dream instead of being frustrated and thinking this horse doesn't get me, or the horse feels they don't get them. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to share, but it can also be very frustrating when you're not a good match.
Is that, is it, can you overcome that it's not a good match with the right communication?
I think every match can be a match. It's kind of like if you have a child, you might not be totally compatible, but you learn how to work together. And that's the way I look at it with horses. I mean, at least give the horse a chance to figure out what do they need and what do you need. And then if that's not totally 100% compatible, is the owner willing to change enough to make it work? I mean, we don't give up our kids because we're not perfect. You know, we don't give them up.
That's deep. I feel like, because I feel like on a lot of levels across the three kinds of people you serve, like that's it. Like at the heart of it with couples, it's like, is there enough of like figuring out how to work with one another? Same thing in a corporate setting or an organization, like the chemistry, if you will, between people in an organization can make or break an organization, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful. I love it. I love it. Well, are there other things, other tips, other ideas that you would want to share before we sort of wrap our conversation?
I think with the horses, it's just look at them as an individual. I'm going to say that loud and clear. They are an individual. They can't speak our language, so I feel like it's up to us to figure out how do we make them comfortable and how do we provide what they need. As far as couples, if you can't communicate, you don't have anything to hold together anyway. I mean, I really believe that strongly. So the bottom line for me is figure out how to communicate, whether it's staying together or just being friends later, but at least make it where you don't hate each other and you put time together. When you spend life with somebody, that's time you spent. So it's sort of a shame to me to feel like that time was wasted. So find the good parts about it and still be friends. As far as corporate world, you have to go there to work, make it as comfortable as you can, understand each other best way you can. It's hard enough to work without a lot of friction and anxiety around your job.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding, for sure. I love it. Well, I wholeheartedly agree. I feel like communication is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but I think there are some nuances to how to really communicate effectively. And when you have tools like sessions with horses and people like you who know how to sort of facilitate that experience, you put yourself in a position to not have to wonder how does the communication work. You can get there a lot faster when you have the help of people like you that do the work that you do. So I know that you put together some tips. You've got tips for each of these categories, communication tips, right? With horse and rider, organizations, and couples. Where can people go to? Yeah, where can people go to get those tips?
Just go to my website. It's www.thehorseconnectionllc.com. And the website is divided in categories. It's easy to find the horse and rider or the couple or the corporate. And just go there, and I've got some tips that you can use with absolutely no obligation, and you can print them down, you can download them, whatever. And I just hope they'll help you.
Perfect. Thehorseconnectionllc.com. Great. And also, if people want to reach out to you and talk to you more about how you might be able to help them in their life, whether it's organizations, horse and rider, or couples, I'm assuming that they can reach out to you and talk to you to see if there's a fit for working with you.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, on my website, I have my mobile number, and there's also an email address there. They can obviously email me. I usually reply within 24 hours. I check it real regularly. So
Perfect.
any questions they have, I'll welcome them. I'll reply myself.
Awesome. Carolyn, thanks for your time today. Thanks for sharing this work with the world. I'm loving this as I learn more and more about what this work is. I'm just loving the transformation that it creates. So thank you for bringing this to the world. And until I see you next time, take care.
Thank you so much.